to our first linear danger area, a set of railroad tracks. So as you come up to an area like this, it's always, you want to make sure, in order to cross this, depending upon how many of you there are, obviously the more people you are, the better you can secure the near side and the far side of it. But in our example, it's just the two of us doing this, right? So the way that you would want to set this up is about 15 or 20 yards out from the area, if you're able to. This is the point where you want to go ahead and do a security halt to try to start getting an idea. Because as you can see here, we can see the immediate area for where these tracks cross in front of us. So you kind of get an idea here. This is where you do that security halts and you perform your SILs, your stop, look, listen, smell.
Okay.
Usually you would do that, in a perfect world, you would do that for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Let the woods come completely quiet and see what you can detect. If somebody has a camp nearby, you're probably going to be able to smell fire, what they were cooking, coffee. I mean, I can smell coffee from a pretty far away.
Yeah,
you know, somebody who smokes a cigarette or smokes a cigar, very distinctive smells.
Right.
You may be able to pick that up, and you're like, all right, somebody's in the general immediate area. So you're going to end up having to proceed with caution, trying to detect where the smell is coming from, or maybe you hear something, maybe you hear rustling. Or maybe you see activity of recent, foot traffic through here. I mean, we just had snow 2 days ago, so you would be able to detect recent movement in the area from that perspective. So when you're performing that security halts and you're doing your SILs, you're literally just squatting down, taking a knee, and you're just taking it in. If it's just the two of us, I would focus on one side, you would focus on the other.
I was just going to ask that. If we split and then I look down to the left, you look down to the right.
Exactly, because that's going to play into, once we've determined that, hey, we performed our SILs, we've detected nothing.
Right.
We now want to make sure we're going to start moving up then to our crossing. But as we do so, we're going to do it one person at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up. Obviously, quietly, you're going to slow it way, way down. And the purposes of explaining it, we're not going to take 10 or 15 minutes to do it for the video.
Right.
So you're going to work your way up quietly, providing yourself some concealment to a specific spot where you can go ahead, get a better view down both sides. We're essentially securing this area is what we're trying to do. I would end up signaling for you to come up behind me, and this is all going to be done with not saying anything. Once we deem it safe to cross, you're going to provide the near side security while I make my way to the far side to start setting up the far side security. Because at that point, I'm setting up security to make it safe for you to cross now.
Okay.
But what we're going to do is, as I'm doing that, so we are going to decide ahead of time, hey, as I cross, I'm going to be providing my own security crossing looking that way. You're going to be providing security for me looking that way.
Okay.
So that way we have both avenues covered.
Right.
If there were more people with us, it's easier to do. Then the person crossing doesn't have to worry about providing their own security then. The smaller the team, the harder it is, plain and simple. That's why they say the lone wolf is never gonna survive. It's too hard. Then once I get to that side, set up security, deem it safe for you to cross, I'm gonna signal for you to cross, providing, once again, I'm going to provide security down the same side. You're gonna provide your own as you work your way across.
Okay.
So as I come out of this concealment, I've deemed that we've secured this side and it's good for me to cross. I'm going to go ahead, and you want to be quiet about it, but quick. So it's literally, you deemed it safe. Now you're going to go ahead and quietly get to a point of concealment, wave you across. Once I've secured the area, wave you across while you're providing your own security as well down one side. You're going to come meet me and go beyond me. because then you're going to set up the far security. I'm going to meet you and we're going to do sills again.
So we're leapfrogging, basically.
Yes. So now we're going to do stop, look, listen, smell for another 10 or 15 minutes because maybe we alerted somebody from our crossing.
Okay.
Another 10 or 15 minutes go by, we've deemed it, we're clear, we can continue on with our patrol. Now, in a case like this, when you look down both sides, you can see a long ways, right?
Yep.
Like, there is not a good area to cross.
No.
You are in full view. In a perfect world, especially if you're at a turn, you know, we're at a radius of a road, or maybe the railroad tracks makes a bend here. You would want to cross at that shortest parts, because then that's the shortest visual folks would have of you who are set up. So that would be, the tighter the area, the more secure you can make it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Total sense. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if this was a bigger area,
right,
more space to cross, it's going to take even more time to do it. But it's harder. The smaller your group, the harder it is to come across.
Right.
You and I are wearing two completely different kinds of boots, right? So we're going to have two different kinds of tread patterns on our boots. So somebody coming through here tracking, I mean, we have some nice footprints here, right? You can tell, like, here's one.
Yep.
But look at the one over to the right, up above it. That's a separate boot. That's a different boot. So now, you know, if you're coming through here, and let's say you and I were coming through on our patrol, and we've come upon those footprints. We know, okay, 1, 2. There's 2 people who have been through here since the snow has fallen in the last 2 days.
Right.
That's a visual tracking clue that, hey, these footprints are going that direction. You know, we don't see anything coming the other direction. So they've come in this way, but we have no idea where they've come out. So that right there, if in a security patrol manner, somebody's been on your property. And it's not you, because those aren't your boot prints.
Right.
So now that becomes an avenue of, now you know, okay, we have, you know, somebody has come through the perimeter, if you want to say it that way, and they're actively on your land. They may not be on your land right now, but they might be. So you would want to conduct yourself appropriately to it. Now you're really going to start slowing things down, because now you're in tracking mode now. Where if we didn't see that, we're in our normal posture then. We're in a little bit more of a relaxed posture. So yeah, that's how I would take that.
Okay.
And then you continue on. But that's always a tough spot. Linear danger areas are tough, but they're good to practice. Good to practice setting up. And it's not a bad idea. Like, if you wanted, in a training scenario, if you wanted to set up a mannequin so far down, camouflage it, see if you can see it.
Yeah.
You know, like if I were to, if you and I knew, hey, it's suspected there's 2 people, 2 unknowns on the property right now. What a great exercise to try to set something up in advance. Like, if I were to come out and set up some dummies,
right,
and then have you come with me and take lead, at what point would you notice them?
Yeah.
What if we set them up where we had them hidden in that ditch 50 yards away, and you and I came through here and we didn't detect it?
Yeah.
Like, then we could come back and I could be like, all right, we missed something here.
Yeah.
Wendell. What did we miss?
Nice.
Let's go back. Let's identify because you missed something. What is it?
Well, and we could do a similar thing where you're leaving clues. So a gum wrapper, a cigarette butt.
Yeah.
You know,
a beer can,
you know,
whatever.
We do things like that in search and rescue, where you'd set out trails and see if the newbies could pick up on those clues as they're hiking. It's the same thing.
I like it. That's good. And it's all about learning. That's what it comes down to. I mean, I'd rather work my butt off training and practicing than, heaven forbid, the time come and you're like, well, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
I didn't know about this. Yeah, it's good stuff to know.
So you want me to look for something that's...
Right. So we're in an area where there's something that doesn't belong in this area.
Right.
Okay. So, and these are things that we're looking for. We're looking for these visual indicators of activity.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something in the general vicinity that does not belong here.
Okay.
The point is to be able to identify it.
Right.
You know, you wouldn't necessarily know that there's something here, but this is part of that scanning.
Yeah.
You know, looking, and when you're scanning, obviously you have your immediate, your medium, and your far away. And a lot of times when folks scan, there's different schools of thought on it. A lot of it's just how your brain works and analyzes information. But most people they'll start with looking further away and then working their way up to right in front of them and then move on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the scanning of we're going to scan left to right. That's a natural thing. Anytime you're looking at something, you go left to right.
Mm-hmm.
Get in the habit of going going the opposite way of your normal scanning because you pick different things out.
Right.
So as we're walking through here, and you said to me that you noticed something. What did you notice?
We were up ahead, and I was scanning. And what I'm looking for something that is not natural looking, that's man-made.
Right.
That is possibly a different color. It could be camouflage, but it'll still be a little bit different than the environment.
Correct.
And as I scanned, I saw that dark object that stood out to me. It's just that rise, and the rise is starting to go down, and it's behind a tree, and
I don't know how well you folks can see that.
from my eye, it looks like it is some type of blind.
So this is a good point, the fact that you used your rifle scope to help identify something. Because a lot of times, and this is an argument a lot of folks have, is, should you rely on only your rifle scope for point of identification, or should you carry a set of binoculars or a monocular? What would be that ideal setup? Obviously, we're in a heavily wooded environment, so magnification wise, you're only going to be able to see so far. But from a security perspective, to be able to, even from, I don't know, how far away are we from that? 30 yards?
Yeah.
To be able to get a little bit of a closer view so that we can now start working, identifying that. So what we would want to do, and you did this right off the bat, I said, well, once we identified that there was something there and pointed it out, you made a beeline for it. Right? The easier way or the better way of doing it, the more secure way of doing it is we don't know if it's occupied or not.
True.
We could set up we could do a little bit of a halt here and stop, look, listen, smell, and see if we can pick anything out, have concealment, see if, hopefully we haven't been identified by then. That would suck to get rolled up right off the bat. But wait it out, see if you hear anything, see anything, smell anything, and then start working a 360 degree around it. Come around it instead of making a beeline for it, and then slowly close in on it.
Right.
That would be the better. All the while looking for any kind of tripwires, booby traps. Shouldn't be a thing. I don't even know if we're allowed to talk about that or not. But these are things that you want to look for.
They're potential issues for sure.
Absolutely. So it's important out here that and once again, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you need to take your time with that. And that's something that is something that we were hoping not to see out here. But now that we do see it, it should raise your alert level a bit, because once again, you are not alone. Somebody has been out here. We have the footprint indicators from the railroad tracks. If we were tracking, now we have this. Okay, now 2 + 2 does equal 4. Contrary to popular belief today, 2 + 2 = 4. Something's up. So now we can change our posture again. We can make other plans. We can radio, mark it on a map. That's something we're going to want to mark things like that on a map, so that we can come back to identify it later or to keep an eye on it even. So yeah.
So that's the object we've circled around, right?
Right. So this is a perfect case where, so we see this off in the distance, but we're not able to determine whether it's something that's actively being used or how long it's been here. But now that we've done a 360 around the area to help kind of get a more of a lay of the land and see what else there might be, are there tracks coming and going from it? You know, what else is there? What other indicators are there? Now that we've determined it's safe to come up upon it, we look at it, it's obviously old. This has been here a long time.
Right.
At least, I mean, it's collapsed, there's snow on it. No one's climbing in and out of there. That is an old blind. So that so obviously somebody has been here, but it's been a while.
Yeah, there's no fresh tracks leading to it.
No.
At all. And like you said, it's collapsed. Well, and if any, if you so the decision to be made is, do you need the resources? Do you collect it and for evidence, or do you leave it so that they don't know that you are in the area?
Right. So do you set up a deterrent? Do you set up signs? Do you set up game cameras on it? Like what
in the area?
Right. So do you set up a deterrent? Do you set up signs? Do you set up game cameras on it? Like what approach do you want to take to this?
Right.
Do you want to report this to the sheriff's department, or do you just want to notate it to be like, all right, I know somebody's been on the backside of my property? Because if you do collect it up, then they know you know.
Where's my shit?
Which isn't a bad thing.
No.
Because that is, when we were talking about different types of patrols, that's a show of force of saying, hey, I'm here and I know you've been here. That is if they come back.
Yep.
So that could definitely be a deterrent to somebody to say, oh, crap. Like, somebody got my stuff.
Yeah, you'll do the same thing with hunting. If you got land and someone's hunting your property and they put up a tree stand, well, you cut a couple straps.
Right.
And then when they come back, they're like, oh, crap. I've been caught.
Somebody knows.
Right, I better get out of here. Yeah.
Or put up a sign. Maybe have some laminated signs made up that say, smile, you're on camera.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because all of a sudden, they'll be like, ooh.
Yeah, they're looking around.
Yep.
Right.
So that's that.
So even a camouflaged item stands out because of the shape of it, and it's just different.
And from a distance, I mean, there's a lot of straight lines here, a lot of especially with the trees that are falling and the snow line on them. It creates a very distinctive line as you're looking out into the distance. This created a very distinctive line.
It did. And for me, when I saw it, was more the darkness. Because usually when I'm looking for stuff, and especially when I was looking for people, you're always looking for colors and shades that stand out from the rest of the terrain, because the terrain tends to all blend, and dark objects usually are silhouettes of something. Man-made, a person, an animal.
Yeah.
It's all very similar.
So no, this was good. This is what you're looking for. I mean, in reality, these are things when you're doing your property patrols. These are things you're looking for. I mean, great visual indicator.
Yeah, cool.
And so you can plan accordingly then to it. So yeah,
nice.
Good stuff.
Cool.
Right on. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm tired, so I'll start it off. How about that? All right, guys, we're back. We excuse, you have to excuse the laughing. We literally sat down to do this, and Wendell just goes, "Oh, my back!" Like, we had a long day out in the field, and it was really good. I think we both really enjoyed ourselves. Absolutely. And I think we achieved our goal of the idea was. The mission profile was, in a normal time like we are now, was really about patrolling two edges of the property that would be common areas for possible poaching to happen or to occur. So it was kind of the idea was to go and try to see if we could identify anything that was out of place, something that wouldn't belong. Tracking, looking for footprints, obviously lots of animal footprints, things like that based on the information that we had available to us from the property owner. and we talked about the pros and cons of walking on trails and then walking off of trails from a patrolling perspective, crossing linear danger areas. Times when and you'll see in the video where we see something that's out of place that shouldn't be there, and the pros and cons of approaching it directly or working our way around it to make sure that the area is safe to further investigate it. Things like that. So that was really and then we were on trail for a while. We went off trail for quite a while.
Yep.
And really, we used a lot of dead reckoning for navigation. Used a lot of dead reckoning. Used a lot of terrain association for finding our way around. Like literally, we looked at the map real quick before we even left camp. But that was the last time we looked at it.
Right.
I think a lot of that is not just familiarity with the property, but also just knowing what to pay attention to as far as navigation goes.
Yeah,
when you're out and about.
that I was disoriented and lost,
Right?
Because there was enough boundary types, like the railroad beds and fields, and that I felt like I always knew where I was at.
Right.
It was very easy to do that.
Yeah, that's good, and that comes down to really that aspect of getting out and exploring and doing. It all comes back to, I know you guys hear me preaching a lot. It's all about doing your area studies. Like that's a biggie. Just becoming familiar with your area so that you don't need to necessarily reference a map while you're going. Got snowed on a little bit in the middle of it. We stopped to take a long lunch break. That was good.
Yeah.
Talked about our kid a little bit. Yeah, I mean, what was the highlight for you? Or maybe what was a surprise, or what was something that you learned that you didn't expect? What do you think?
Well, definitely the linear danger area is something I've never done before, so that was a big learning experience. That was cool. I liked hearing about that. It all made sense. The way you explained it was very basic for me.
Cool.
I could pick up on it easily. The one thing where you had me look and find the one thing that was out of place.
Right.
And I was able to find it pretty quickly, but what was interesting was my experience was like, oh, I better go over there and see what's up, and you're like, whoa, we need to do a circle around to make sure that it's safe. And it's like, I didn't even think about that. So that was a big learning experience.
Cool.
It's like, you need to think about the potential dangers.
Yes.
Find stuff you don't know.
Right. So you don't want to act in haste on it.
Right.
You need to have that mindset of, okay, hold up. So let's dissect this now. And what's the next step to do this, to make sure we're safe doing it, or at least to minimize any danger that there could be, because there very well could be.
Sure.
So that's awesome. And then you actually had a not an equipment failure, but when we stopped for lunch, what happened that you
that I purchased and brought with me specifically to heat for today, the heater didn't work at all, and so I had to go back to my secondary food that I always bring. I always bring stuff that I can eat that doesn't require cooking.
Right.
And I was able to snack, and that was enough to get me back to camp. No problem. I mean, you don't need that much food, really. None of us do, but that was kind of eye-opening. It's like, okay, this crap may not work.
Absolutely.
And then what are you going to do?
Right. Absolutely. Like Murphy's Law, right?
Exactly.
And that's a situation where the nice thing at least with MREs or that style of food, that you can eat that cold if you need it.
Sure.
It's not as enjoyable, but you could certainly, if it presented itself and that's what you had to do, that's what you do. But we see a lot of folks reliant on Mountain House and Alpine Air and these other freeze-dried meals. Now you're left with having to hydrate that in cold water.
Yep.
So could you do it? Absolutely.
Sure.
Would it work? Yeah.
Right.
But it's just that now it's that extra step you have to take. So that you have to think about these, little things that could possibly disrupt what we're trying to do. So
Yeah.
that was, I don't want to say that was good that we had a equipment failure out
Yeah.
there, but it's eye-opening to be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't rely on that as much
Right.
for my heat source or
Yep.
whatever it may be.
No,
Or
absolutely.
rethink ration kits for what may make more sense.
Yep.
Just from a simplicity point of view, I guess, more than anything else.
I think the other big thing for me was, shooting your rifle at a range, right? It's very static. It's very controlled. Carrying a rifle in the field with gear, I really figured out how I should be wearing my sling properly, how much wearing it different ways affects the fatigue on my neck and my shoulders.
Absolutely.
So that was a good learning experience in itself. It's like, okay, I was able to quickly, through some of your suggestions, like readjust a few things. I actually switched around the side that I had my sling on.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it. I didn't catch you do that.
Because it was catching. But you don't ever experience that if you're just static at a range,
Right.
shooting off a sandbag.
Yeah.
You got to go out and walk in this, unimproved terrain.
Go up and down hills, in and
Yeah.
out of ravines, and
Exactly.
balance across fallen trees and everything else that goes with it.
Right.
Plus, add in the wet snow and the cold and the wind, and
Yeah.
it all plays.
And then to be safe, you want to, because you're walking with someone in front of you, so I don't want to flag you.
Right.
There's safety considerations. So all that is, if you don't go out and try it, which I've not done much of this, coming out here was very eye-opening. It was great training.
Awesome. I'm glad. That's
Yeah.
what we wanted out of this. We wanted a learning experience, and we wanted, and not just networking
Sure.
wise, but just getting that field experience. It's huge.
Yeah.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
And I think now, like, you're going to yearn for even more info. So that is like the journey has started,
Yes.
and it really opens up perspective on things. But I think we did a great job today with having a lot of context
Right.
within why certain things were done certain ways. So that was,
I would
I
agree.
thoroughly enjoyed this.
Good.
I'm glad you were willing to come join me
Yeah.
out here and
Yeah.
for good stuff.
I have a feeling we're going to be doing more of
I
this.
think so. It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
for
we work
sure.
pretty well together.
I
Yeah.
agree for
Yeah.
sure. Good
Great.
stuff.
Oh, thanks,
Thank
Jay.
you.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Cool. Very cool.